Hello everyone, this is Kartikeya from CSEE. My topic is open source software considerations for law enforcement and, and, and the subject is Linux programming. Faced with little funding and aging technology components, some law enforcement practitioners have turned to using open source software as a cost-effective solution for meeting their technology needs. Small and medium-sized agencies often lack technical resources, yet their need for IT tools continues to grow. The benefits of open source software, which are not law enforcement specific, include system interoperability, source code visibility, and low initial acquisition cost. System interoperability. Open source software lets law enforcement agencies employ a wealth of freely available database, utility, and software development tools that are based on open standards such as structured query language and Java. The flexibility to evolve and extend applications without a vendor lock in also drives open source software adoption. Database compatibility issues can be a major source of problems when considering the shift to an open source database. Visibility into software code. Unlike proprietary software, when using open source software, the agency can examine the code to ensure that no backdoor functions or security risks exist, thus preventing unauthorized access to sensitive information. Although open source advocates often cite the ability to see into the open source code and functions as a benefit. Few state and local agencies have the staff source with the technical depth to perform such a detailed overview. Low initial acquisition cost. The lower costing open source software would let contractors and other agencies service providers reduce the cost of their service accordingly. Agencies use office productivity software daily for everything from generating case reports to creating community awareness. Lack of technical support. Users want someone accountable for the software they use. It's important to them to be able to call the software vendor for help when needed. They do not want to have to rely on a community of developers to help resolve any issues. Although major packages like Red Hat Linux have supported options, agencies have found fewer experienced staff for patching and maintaining open source software. Agencies using open source software. So here, the Garden Grove, California, Largo, Florida, Pennsylvania State Police, Computer Forensic Task Force, and Open Source Software Institute from Mississippi. These are the agencies which are using open source software. Open source has begun making inroads in many market segments and thus can no longer be seen as a second class of the computing format, not with IBM, Nobel, Sun, other participating in its creation, distribution, and support. Hardware vendors have been in the open source market for some time, including IBM since 1998 and HP since at least 1999. Dell also recently agreed after input from its user community to consider expanding the sales, service, and support of computers with open source operating systems. How can law enforcement leverage this success to benefit the communities they serve? In some areas, recommending open source solutions is easy and straightforward. In other cases, the arguments for open source solutions are less clear. The current state of open source computing as related to law enforcement is a mixed bag. It competently addresses how many law enforcement needs, but it sufficiently addresses other needs or fail to address them at all. Thank you.